What's up, everyone? Let me know if you're here in the chat so I can add you to our raffle. What's up, everyone? Let me know if you're here in the chat so I can. How is my audio today? Hey, Omema. Let me add you to our wheel of names. What's your Discord name? Thank you, Pips. Forex. Forex, I didn't see what team it was, but I saw that you are repping someone else in the Poker Go tournament. I do not know what to say. I'm a little hurt, but I'm going to forgive you. We're going to forgive you. I understand it's okay to be in more than one community. All right, we're going to wait a couple more minutes for people to file in. Let's see if I can get a couple more people in here. Hey, Jester, no problem. I'm adding you to our raffle now. Getting your name in there for your first entry. Jester, what are you playing today? Are there any good tournaments out there that we should know about? Hey, Jason. What was the reward for CryptoCorn and Ape? I'm curious. And Jester, did you ever get a chance to use your $55 stake? I wasn't sure if you had or not. Jason, what's your Discord name? No problem, Jester. I had seen a little bit in the Discord, so definitely praying for your family, man. But Jason, let me know what your Discord name is so I can get you an entry here, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. We want to be respectful of everyone's time, so if we have some late people join, that'll be fine. Gesture might just spin it up to like an $88 tournament by the end of this. That'd be crazy if Jester won another raffle and had an $88 entry to play. But maybe there's some merit to saving there. I don't know. That actually would be pretty cool. So, yeah, I don't know. That actually might be kind of groundbreaking instead of just like, let me make sure. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. General. Okay. Jabster, are you a holder? IT guy, I'm putting you in the raffle. I know you're playing in some tourneys too, but if you can answer some questions in the middle of it, we'll definitely put you in, and you get a entry just for being here. So my man IT guy's in, and we are going to get started. Okay, Jabster, definitely going to add you then. Okay. Okay, so today we have like a we're gonna do four like four. You have 4 points to earn from today's training session, and then we're gonna do a review question that's kind of related from a previous week. So it's a little bit of review, and it also will align with some of the information we're doing today. Lolo, hey man, what's up? I'm adding you to the raffle. So just so y'all can see, I'm doing it on another screen, but I'll throw it up here real quick so that you can see everyone's entries. So pair poker already has 4 entries. Let me stream the tab real quick just so y'all can see it before. So right now, I'm not sure exactly why, but I have to like cancel out and then reshare screen. But this is the wheel so far. I did an early morning session. I won't do it every Friday, but some Fridays I will. And Sapir has 4 entries, so I actually have to update that. Sapir. So he has 4. We're gonna do. There's a maximum of 6 possible today. So there's 6 possible entries. Everyone, you get an attendance entry, and the rest you have to earn it your way by answering the quiz questions correctly. So let's do the best we can. All right. That just want to show everyone the wheel. I'm gonna keep track of it as we go, but I'm just gonna let everyone else see the presentation for the most part, unless I have to go to the odds calculator. But today, what we're going to be covering is going to be blockers and floating, for which are familiar concepts for some. It might be new for others, but if it is, that's fine. You'll get a bunch of entries, and it'll be educational for everyone else. I did want to let everyone else know that our official heads up shootout for $20 per win. We're picking out for this is only for holders of 2 outlaws or more. If you have 2 outlaws or more, we're going to run in a raffle on Monday morning to see who will play heads up against Pips, and then who will play heads up against me if they beat Pips. And if you beat me and Pips, you get $20. And if we get to 300 mints, that's going to go up to $30. So that's pretty cool. We had a new mint today. I think, yeah, we did have a mint earlier this morning. There's a couple on secondary right now at 0.1, so it's probably more affordable to just mint your second if you want to be a part of that. You'll also get the Shootout Shark roll in Discord, and that roll is going to have some perks later down the road. So it's not just the $20 per week that you're competing for. There's going to be some extra perks as well. And as you already know, Zach has already made incentive for owning 3 outlaws. You get a 25% 25% for your referral code if you have anyone. So just want to make sure everyone's up to date on that big news. And then yeah, so we're gonna get started. We're gonna get started and try to get this done by 8 o'clock. Get you out of here soon. So we're doing floating with backdoors, right? Floating with backdoors. And for those of you who don't know what floating is the act of calling without a made hand or immediate draw with the intention of bluffing your opponent off their hand on a later street. So before we get into the mechanics of floating and what exactly does it mean to call without a made hand or immediate draw, it's basically you are calling without anything in your hand at that moment. Like you don't have an immediate draw, which means you don't have a flush draw on the flop. You don't have a straight draw on the flop, or if you do, maybe it's just like a gut shot. It's kind of like a semi bluff for us. So what we're doing is we're going to have a little bit of equity in the hand, but we're really not trying to win by like having the better hand. Our intention is to bluff on the turn or the river. And so this is best accomplished when playing heads up, first and foremost. We want to acknowledge that if we're in a multi-way hand, like there's 3 or 4 players in the hand, this is not a good time to use the strategy of floating. It's not a job. It's not a great idea to try to bluff someone off on a later street if there's 3 or 4 people in the hand, because you don't know if someone is going to act behind you in an aggressive manner and kind of just so you're just punching your chips off if you call planning to bluff on the turn, but someone raises right after you call, you're kind of just punting your chips. And if someone bets, or even if it goes check check before you, and then you check and someone bets, you know, you don't know if you calling, even though the people before you check, they could check raise. So playing heads up is the best way to do floating. You don't really want to do it in a multi-way hand, 3-way or 4-way. So just know that what we're talking about today is for heads up play. And it's good to have at least some backup equity, kind of like what Forex mentioned. It's nice to have it almost like as not as necessarily a semi bluff, but calling not with a great hand, but with a hand that can have some value on later streets. So we're talking like backdoor flush draws, backdoor straight draws, overcards. Overcards is really good to have as backup equity. Yes, overcards definitely. Yep. Yep. So everything that Forex has said is really good. The difference between continuation betting and floating is you are calling, not betting. We're going to be calling action instead of betting action, and there is a distinction there. Okay. Um, and floating, to understand when to float well, it's really good to have a good understanding of blockers as well. So blockers are cards that block or prevent your opponent from having certain hand combinations, right? So for example, if you are starting with the ace of spades, ace of hearts in your hand, which is, yes, it's a great hand, but there is some sophistication behind having the ace of spades and ace of hearts on certain board textures. So having the ace of spades and ace of hearts blocks the likelihood of your opponent having, ace king, or obviously it blocks them. There's only one other combination of pocket aces that could be out there. And in addition, you are never going to have your opponent make an ace of spades or an ace of hearts flush on any street, right? The best they can do is like a king high flush for hearts and spades. Of course, they could get there with clubs and diamonds, but you dominate the spades and hearts flush draws, which is really helpful if you suspect that your opponent might be drawing to a flush. Definitely, Jason. Yeah, anything that can take away from your opponent hitting are good are blockers. And it's also like just canceling out what your opponent can hold in their hand. So let's take a look at this graphic real quick. There are technically 6 combinations of pocket aces, and that goes for all pocket pairs. There's 6 combinations of pocket pairs, and there are 16 combinations of ace king, right? You see this on this chart here. So if you know that there are 16 possible combinations of ace king, but you have ace 3 of diamonds in your hand, you eliminate any ace king combination with the ace of diamonds, right? So ace of diamonds, king of diamonds is no longer a possibility for your villain because you have the ace of diamonds in your hand. They can't have ace of diamonds, king of spades because you have the ace of diamonds in your hand. Um, this actually is going to give you a greater statistical awareness of your opponent's range and a greater awareness of what you're up against if you can use blockers efficiently and use that to inform um, your floating strategy. There was a player in this year's main event. I forgot his first name. If anyone was watching like Poker Go on the main event, there's his last name was Zhang. He was an Asian player, and he said that he was a very aggressive player. C bet, turn bet, river bet a lot through a triple barrel. He was using blockers in a majority of his bluffs. He said he didn't have a lot of made hands, but he was using blockers to help him represent the best hands on in a lot of different heads up situations. And he said that's how he slowly and gradually built a stack through aggressive play is by having a good understanding of blockers. And so people think like if there's only a couple there's some people very mistakenly say like, there's only 2 combinations of aces, right? If you have aces, then someone else can only have aces, so there's 2 combinations. That's not true. And if you look at our graphic, an ace of clubs can match with each of the three different aces to form an ace combination, right? So you have to really think about the different ways you can have pocket aces, um, or your villain can have pocket aces realistically. Because it's really simple if you have pocket aces, right? If you have ace of clubs, ace of spades, then your opponent can only have ace of diamonds, ace of hearts. But most of the times you're going to have one ace, and so it helps to delimit. Even having one ace in your hand eliminates, what is this, 7 possibilities of premium aces or ace king combinations from your villain's range. Sean Maverick, adding you to the wheel. So you have one raffle entry, sir. Thank you for joining us. We're talking about blockers today, blockers as well as floating strategy. And what we're in the middle of right now is talking about how if you have the ace of diamonds in your hand, like ace of diamonds, three of diamonds, modern poker theory and a lot of what we've talked about in earlier weeks suggests that you don't flat call this hand, but raise pre-flop with this hand, because just having the ace of diamonds removes so many combinations of ace king and pocket aces. So it really helps you to represent an ace king or pocket aces, because it's vastly less likely that your opponent is going to have a combination of these if you have a single ace in your hand. Yes, definitely want to be careful with blockers, because we have definitely everyone in this stream, everyone in this training has come into a situation where you have an ace and another person has a stronger ace, right? Or you have like ace king and your opponent has aces. Like that stuff happens. It definitely happens. So you have to be careful with blockers, but it is helpful to understand how to use blockers to bluff. Essentially bluffing, not necessarily having the best hand, but informing how you can bluff. Um, I think I've spoken enough on that, so let's keep going. So this is an example of floating. So let's say action folds around to you on the button. You look down at 8-9 of spades, and you decide to raise from the button, and one opponent calls from the big blind. The flop comes ace of spades, ace of diamonds, king of hearts, and your opponent bets half pot. True Man Dan, no problem. I'm adding you to the raffle. You haven't missed any quiz questions yet, so don't worry. Everyone is still on their first attendance ticket, and then we're gonna have 5 raffle possibilities tonight. So you haven't missed anything. We're talking about blockers and we're talking about floating, which is the act of calling without a made hand. So this is our first example, and I think True Man Dan, you have an understanding of blockers already, so you shouldn't be missing too much. But say we have the ace nine of spades. Thank you, True Man Dan. I promise that I'll be taking care of it in the future. I still don't have like A1 S tier mic, but I have what I can afford. So I'll invest when I ship a poker tournament. So in the meantime, that is what it is. So we have 8-9 of spades, and the flop comes ace of spades, ace of diamonds, king of hearts. Our opponent bets half pot into us, right? You got to ask yourself, why is our opponent betting? We're the pre-flop aggressor. We're the pre-flop raiser. If they really had an ace in their hand, would they be betting, or would they be trapping us, allowing us to bet, and maybe just flat calling us and letting us punt off our chips on later streets? The best they would probably have in this situation is a king that they want to maybe deny some equity from a jack 10, queen 10. You know, they really might want to just see where they're at. A lot of times, the players you're going to see aren't going to have a super sophisticated strategy. Sometimes they'll get tricky and bet with an ace in their hand. So, like Forex said earlier, you kind of want to be careful. Yeah, definitely gonna have some pocket pairs for us, like maybe sevens or eights. Kind of just want to see where they're at, but they probably don't have an ace. And what we want to do here is call. We want to call in this position because we do have 8-9 of spades, which means we have backdoor flush draws, right? We don't have a flush draw right now, but if the turn comes 2 of spades and then the river is a 7 of spades, we would have a made flush and probably the best hand. We don't want to really call this flop with ace 9 of clubs because it's impossible for us to really improve our hand to a flush by the end of this. Or and we definitely don't have any straights. We can't have 10 jack queen, right? Where there's no straights that we can make with 8-9. So we at least want to have spades, diamonds, or hearts if we're gonna float this, because it's very suspicious that our opponent's gonna bet with an ace here. And our true intention is to, when the turn comes, like the turn's gonna come like 7 of clubs or 7 of diamonds or even like jack of hearts. Our turn play is going to try to bet the turn aggressively, represent an ace or made hand that folded with like a gut shot or something, and have our opponent fold their king or fold their pocket sevens or fold their eights because they're really going to be asking themselves, what is the person on the button calling with? They did pre-flop raise, and now they're calling my bet on the flop. They probably have a strong hand, right? So that's going to, when we bet the turn here, they're going to fold out a lot of their bluffs. They're really going to give up most of the time. And if they don't give up, if they call you on the turn, on if it's a blank like a seven of spades or a seven of diamonds, and they call you on the turn, I really urge you all not to bet the river. It's very unlikely that they're going to give up on the river. They might have been playing it tricky. Maybe they did bet with an ace on the flop, or they just think their king is good. But if they call you on the turn, you're gonna have like a huge overbet pot on the river, or you're gonna have to give up. Especially in the NFT poker, I urge you to give up because you're going to have a lot of calling stations. In the $33 and the $22 tournaments that we play in, I'm going to urge you to overbet the pot or give up, right? Overbet or give up. You have to know your opponent to see which one's going to work. If you really feel like they're calling light, you probably want to give up. If you feel like they're a tighter player and are more capable of folding to a big bet, overbet the pot, apply pressure, but those are really you have to polarize your range there. You're just going to have to be one or the other. So that's the example of floating. And this is how you're going to elevate your play and win more pots. If you only are trying to win pots when you have made hands, you're going to let all the aggressive players that you're going to find deep in tournaments run over you because they're going to be betting with nothing. And if they see that you are overfolding your hands, if you're overfolding your button, they're going to exploit you. And on a flop like ace ace king, they're just going to bet. And if you don't show any type of resistance, they're going to do it over and over again, whether or not they have an ace or a king, right? So you have to show resistance, or you're going to get run over in poker tournaments. It's going to happen. And you want to be the person running other people over versus the person who is getting run over, right? But even if you have a tighter play style, the float is a really good thing to mix into your play because if you play really tight, really tight, really tight, and then you fold a lot, and then when the blinds get higher and the pots get more, they're deeper because the blinds have elevated, and now someone's still trying to run over you after you folded, and you finally call them on a flop like this, they're more likely to give up because of that tight image you've represented, and you're going to be able to bluff them on the turn. And they're just going to give it up to you. And then they're going to be like, well, I had them all day. I'm going to give up. But this is going to be your opportunity to fight back a little bit and win a bigger pot. And having given up all the pots at the smaller blind levels isn't that bad for you, right? Okay. So here's an example of floating with blockers and why blockers matter when we consider when to float. So let's say action folds to you on the button and you look down at ace of spades, nine of diamonds. I'm sorry. It should have been action folds to you on the hijack. And you look down at ace of spades, nine of diamonds from the hijack, and you raise it up, right? This is a good raising hand from the hijack. The cutoff and big blind, excuse me, the cutoff, the button, and the big blind fold. But oddly, the small blind calls. You have to pay attention to the small blind calls, especially when we're in the $22 and the $33 tournaments. If you're on a site like ACR, because small blind calls are way stronger than big blind calls. Big blinds last to act, nothing behind, nothing to worry about, and already some money invested. They're going to have a wider range. When a small blind calls, you have to put them at least on a little bit of a stronger range. Okay, so let's be mindful of that. The big blind folds on the flop comes eight of hearts, eight of spades, four spades. Your opponent bets into you and you decide to call. This is kind of, these paired boards are great positions to float because almost it's very rare that someone's betting with a made hand on a paired board. I will say it's becoming a little bit more meta for people to bet on the flop on paired boards, but on these still $22, $30 is still considered like low stakes. I would still think it's more likely that you're going to find opponents who check with an eight here. So when they bet, you should be, your alarm bell should be up, and you should be happy that you have the ace of spades because they are not betting into you with a ace high flush draw, spades in their hand. So you having the ace of spades blocks the possibility that they're betting into you with a flush draw. That's very common. Some people like to bet their flush draws, but the best this person could possibly have is a king high flush draw, not an ace high flush draw. So you can represent the ace high flush draw by calling. In addition, you have the 9 of diamonds, which is not a bad card either. That blocks a lot of 8-9 combinations. A loose player might be calling in the small blind with 8-9 offsuit, but you block 8-9 of diamonds, which is 8 of diamonds isn't on this board, so it's possible that an opponent could have 8-9 of diamonds. Except you have the 9 of diamonds, so that makes it less likely that an opponent has 8-9 of diamonds. And calling with something like 8-10 is a little bit loose. Calling with 8-6 is a little bit loose. 7-8, there's some possibilities here, right? Which is why you want to count your combinations. There's 2 combinations of 7-8. There's 7-8 of diamonds and 7-8 of clubs that would call from the small blind. And then you have 8-9 of diamonds and 8-9 of clubs from the small blind. Again, you have to know your opponent. How loose are they calling? Are they calling with 8-9, 8-10 combinations? Jack-8 combinations, that's really loose. Or they're keeping it to their 8-9s, 7-8s, in which there's only 4 possibilities of 8s that would have this flop, really, really solid, dominated. So you can call here to represent an ace-high flush draw, knowing that your opponent doesn't have an ace-high flush draw, and they don't have at least 8-9. 7-6 of spades, right? Odd. But having the ace of spades is really nice because say the turn is like, the king of hearts and your opponent check. If you bet and they call again on this type of board, it's the king of hearts, and then let's say it's like, a 2 of clubs, just another blank on the river, 2 of clubs on the river. Let's call it 2 of clubs. So king of hearts on the turn, 2 of clubs on the river, and the opponent checks again. You really have to ask yourself at that point, what were they willing to bet on the flop with, and then just check call the turn with. And that's another situation where you just blast the river with something huge, because they might have had a flush draw, or you can play it the other way around, right? Say the 2 of spades comes on the turn, right? You blast the river if everything misses, uh, and then you have a lot of equity for blocking some of those stronger hands. But if the 2 of spades comes on the turn and your opponent checks to you, you might be able to bet, and they'll fold it right there, right? They didn't have the ace, they high flush. They might be scared of the flush, or if they call even the river, they might not be able to call an overbet, right? So having these blockers, which that guy Zhang did in the main event, is going to be really good for setting you up for strong bluffs on the road. So this is one last example of how blockers help mathematically, right? This is going back to the ace-3 of diamonds in our hand. Actually, I've already touched on this, so I'm going to skip on this just to save time, because we really only have about 25 minutes left. So let's go to our first quiz, right? Let's get everyone their raffle entries, try to get people some tickets here. On the board, king of spades, 7 of clubs, 4 of diamonds. How many combinations of ace king are available? This is actually a question directly taken from a popular poker player and YouTuber and trainer. I'm not going to say his name right now because I don't want you all to look him up and find the answer. But he posted this recently. On king of spades, 7 of clubs, 4 diamonds, how many combinations of ace king are available? I want you to think of this as an observer. So I haven't told you your hand. I haven't told you what you have in your hand, what blockers you might have in your hand. But I want you to tell me how many combinations of ace king are available when you see the king of spades, 7 of clubs, and 4 of diamonds. And I want you to think of that big chart we had of all the ace king combinations and all the pocket aces combinations. I had mentioned how many ace king combinations there are, but you can still calculate it in your hand, right? For the ace of diamonds, how many kings can match with that? Ace of hearts, so on and so forth. How many possible combinations of ace king are available? I'm going to give everyone about 30 more seconds to respond before the answer is revealed. We have 2 answers in the chat. Jester, if you're still there, I need to hear from you. Jabster, I need to hear from you. I want to make sure I always give you a chance to get your raffle entries. Lolo, Rich, I want to hear from you. Sean O'Maverick, make sure you answer as well to get your additional raffle entries, even though you have 1. Pips, of course, I always want to hear from Pips. If you have an answer, Pips. Okay, will anyone break the trend of 12? I really like it when we have different answers and everything's like all over the place. But it's cool when everyone has the same answer too, because it's high stakes. Either everyone is right or everyone's wrong. Okay, so Sean O'Maverick is the only person I'm still waiting on, I think. Wait, hold on. Yeah, Sean O'Maverick. No, Jester. I still don't have Jester. I'm sorry if you're unable to answer Jester, or yeah, IT Guy Bear told me he's playing, so he's not going to be able to answer too much. But Jester says 12. Okay, Jester answered. So Sean Maverick's the only person who did not answer. Sean, I hope you answered the future questions, but right now we are kind of out of time, so sorry about that. We're going to have to keep moving. So King of Spades, 7 of Clubs, 4 diamonds. All right, I'm going to share our poker odds calculator just to give you a better visualization for everybody. Okay, so if we think of our flop over here, we have a King of Spades. I think it was the 7 of Clubs. It actually doesn't matter that much, and 4 diamonds. How many combinations of Ace King are there? So let's look at villain's hand, right, or hero's hand. Doesn't really matter. We're coming from another perspective. So this Ace of Spades can be paired with the King of Hearts, right? That's one combination. The King of Diamonds, or the King of Clubs. So that's three separate combinations for this ace. And that should be the same for every single ace, right? So I can flop this Ace of Spades out and switch it in with the Ace of Hearts. So it should be King of Clubs, King of Hearts, King of Diamonds, switching in those 3 kings for the Ace of Hearts. Those are combinations of Ace King available. So truly, when we think about it, every ace has 4 kings that could be paired with it. Or you want to think of it this way, every king has 4 aces that can be paired with it. But because one king is already on the board, there's only 3 other kings that can be paired with 4 aces. So it's going to be 12. There's going to be 12 combinations of ace king. So most of us got it right. Low. Oh my gosh, being bold this time did not pay off. It's okay. Let me add everyone's names real quick to the raffle entry. Okay, folks, I'll tell you what. I did not think of giving the first person extra raffle entries, but I will do it for this next question. Okay, I will do it for this next question because it's pretty much similar, and it seems like everyone has a very strong understanding of this already for the most part. So let's do it as a speed round. You'll still get 1 raffle entry just for getting it right. If you're the first one to get this next question right, because it's the same, very similar idea, exact same situation almost, but now I'm going to tell you your blockers. You're going to get extra entries. So, and it's fair because like if you think about it, in a poker tournament, you are on a time clock. You have to calculate these things fast, and it helps. Okay. All right. So we're gonna go to quiz 2 after I reshare the right screen, and then first person to answer will get an extra raffle entry. All right. Here we go. Let me wait for it to be up. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Same board. King of Spades, 7 of Clubs, 4 diamonds. If you're holding King, Queen of Clubs in your hand, how many combinations of Ace King are now available? If you're holding King, Queen of Clubs in your hand, how many combinations of Ace King are available? We're going to give everyone 30 seconds. The same board, but now I am telling you that you are holding the King and Queen of Clubs in your hand. So how many combinations of Ace King are available? We have some variation here now. Interesting. Jester is at 9. TMD, Jason are at 8. Jason switching to 9. Wowo is at 8. Forex is at 12. Okay, this is going to be interesting. We have some variations. So I'll give us about 20 more seconds before I reveal the answer. Remember, it's the exact same situation as before, but now I'm telling you that you have king, queen of clubs in your hand. So that's the only difference. We're same flop, but now you know your whole cards as the king, queen of clubs. Everyone finalize your answers. Jason changed his. So to be fair, if anyone wants to change their answers in 20 seconds, that's fine. I'm going to post something so I know the marker for when time ends. So y'all have about 50 more seconds to change your answer. Sean Maverick, if you're still out there, definitely want you to get your raffle tickets, y'all. And time. I'm going to post in the chat. I have the time marker, so anything posted after my time marker doesn't count anymore. All right, the correct answer here, and the first correct answer is 8. True Man Dan is going to get 2 extra raffle tickets for having the first correct answer. So let's talk about this. This one we had some variation here, which is exciting. All right, let's go back to our odds calculator and see why is it 8 and not 12 or 9. Forex, you said True Bandana for double raffles. Yes, you're holding king queen. So let's look at this, Forex. Let's look at it. You're holding king queen of clubs, right? So how many kings are left? Well, there's only the king of hearts and the king, right? So I'll do it like this. I'll put the king of hearts here and the king of diamonds there for possible villain combinations. So your villain can have king of hearts, ace of spades, ace of hearts, or ace of diamonds, ace of clubs, right? Any of the 4 aces still, we don't know where any of the aces are, so they could be paired with any of the villain's hands. But the villain at most can only have the king of hearts or the king of diamonds. So you can pair the 4 aces with this king of hearts. That's 4 combinations of ace king, or the other 4 aces with the king of diamonds. Another 4 combinations of ace king, which means 8 combinations of ace king are left. The king on the flop, right? No one can have the king on the flop though, because it's on the flop. Okay, you see it now? Got you. I'm glad we're just coming to the realization. And just so this is going to roll over into calculating pot odds into next week, which pot odds is like there's so much nonsense about pot odds. Really, pot odds is like there's so much nonsense that goes in, and at the same time, there's a lot of good stuff. But a little bit of a preview here is like, let's say someone is like triple barreling into you, and you're holding king queen, right? Someone like fires 3 bullets into you. You want to know like what is the likelihood that you're good? Like what combinations of kings do you beat? So let's say the run out is like something. I'll make it interesting. Let's say the run out is 4 of spades. No. Let's do 7 of spades and 10 of hearts. Let's say someone triple barrels you on this board. Like you're actually just checking and trapping, but someone triple barrels you on this board, and you have to calculate like what is the likelihood that you're good here? What's the likelihood that your king queen is good when someone fires on the flop, turn, and river? Why do we want to know how many combinations of hands are out there? It seems kind of pointless. But if you know that there are only 8 possible combinations of ace king, which are the only kings that beat you, then you have to think, well, what other combinations of kings beat you? Like I'm gonna guess this is a pre-raise flop. There's a pre-flop raise because you have king queen of clubs, right? So you're either raising or calling a raise with king queen of clubs. So you have to think, well, what's gonna beat you? King jack's not beating you. Is someone really raising with king 7, king 10, really? Like so you're like, well, I can beat all the king jacks, none of the king 10s. I can beat all the combinations of 5, 6 suited. I can beat like all the pocket jacks, pocket queens, pocket pocket 9s that might bet. You have to really know your opponent, and you're like, well, I can beat. There's like 56 combinations of hands that I can beat, and I can't beat any of the ace king combinations, which is like 8 hands. So If I can beat 56 possible hands and I can't beat eights, and my opponent is betting half pot, well, I'm beating way more than half of the hands, and he's only betting half of the pot. So more than half of the time, I'm going to be right. So I should call with my king queen of clubs when someone triple barrels into me, right? This is why you really want to. This is the depth of pot odds, right? Like it's not like, oh, I guess, like people say, well, he's only betting half pot. He's only betting a third pot, so I have to call. No, you don't have to call. Can you beat a third of the hands? Can you beat half of the hands on this board? If you can't, then you don't call, right? You don't call. Because, like, let's say I change the 7 to a jack, right? And I'm gonna change this to like the 7. I'm gonna change this to 7 hearts, 4 hearts, right? 7 hearts, 4 hearts. And I'll just make that 10. Right? Say this was the run out for your king queen. You don't beat half of the hands anymore. You really don't. You don't beat any of the flush draw combinations. King jack beats you now. King 10 beats you now, right? You don't get to call a half pot bet on the river here. If we're really like deep stack. I mean, if you're deep stack maybe, but if you're shallow stack, you're not supposed to call a half pot bet here because you don't beat king jack. You don't beat ace king. You don't beat king 10. You don't beat any flush draw. So that's why we calculate how many possible hand combinations are there. I wanted to give you all just a little bit of a heads up into next week's exercise because I didn't want you to think this is pointless. It's not pointless to know how many combinations of ace king there are, because when you're truly playing great poker, you have to know how many combinations of hands you beat. Anyway, I gave Truman Dan those 2 extra tickets. Jabster, you're getting a ticket as well. And Lolo is getting a ticket for that as well. Let me see anyone else. Jester had said the right answer right after. Okay. Let's go to quiz question 3 and then 4. All right, here we go. Quiz question 3. In the example, I'm not doing a speed one for this round, okay? So I might do it for the last round, but no speed for this one. So take your time because this is a little bit new, and I really want us to get a authentic, well thought out response for this one. So because this one isn't calculating the number of hands. Okay, so remember what we talked about for what makes a good floating hand, right? What we like our overs, we like our backdoors. We like things that could block the possible combinations of nutted hands on the flop. So I'm going to use the same type of board that we've been practicing this entire way through. And I will say there are 2 acceptable answers for this question, but your justification has to be correct. Your justification has to be correct, which is why this is a 2-point raffle entry, all right? There's 2 possible right answers, but your justification has to match your answer. You can write, if you have the wrong justification, that will disqualify your answer. So it's not like a 0, 1, or 2-point thing. It's either 2 points or 0 points. There are no 1-point raffles for this. It's either going to be 2 points or 0 because your justification has to match. Okay, so 2 or 0. I want to make that clear. Okay, so in the example below, ace of spades, ace of hearts, 4 hearts, right? This is the same board texture we've been practicing. A paired board, we have a flush draw. What hand should you call with and why? All right. Action folds around to the button who raises, and we're defending the big blind. All these hands are defendable big blind hands. Probably not hands you want to 3-bet with. So you could probably do it with some of them, but we're just going to say for the sake of the example, we decide to flat call here. So the button raises, we flat call, and the flop comes ace of spades, 8 of hearts, 4 hearts. So float, remember, float is not a bet. So if we're thinking about floating, that means we check and our opponent bets into us. So this is very dangerous. We're floating out of position. So we really want to make sure we are calculating this correctly if we're deciding that we are going to try to call and then probably take this away on the Turner River. So this one's a little longer. So you have 1 minute, two raffle entries here. Jason has his entry. No, well, I said there's two correct. There's two possible correct answers, but your reasoning has to be correct. All right. There's two possible correct answers, but your reasoning has to be correct because the reasoning is not going to be the same for both of them. And that's a little bit of a hint for y'all. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go through the three reasons that we float one more time. Of course, we are always going to float if we think our opponent's bluffing, right? If they have an 8 here, we're not calling if they have an 8. If we think they have an 8, we're not calling. We're calling because we think they're bluffing or semi-bluffing, and we can take this away from them on the turn of the river. Maybe they have a 4, like ace 4 or something, but we're thinking we can take this away on the turn of the river. So, what hands are we willing to try this pretty bold bluff with? And the reasoning is different. The reasonings that we've talked about are having strong backdoor equity, which is overcards, backdoor flush, backdoor straight, or strong blockers. Blocking, having hands in our holding that make it less likely that our opponent is nutted on this board. And you really got to consider what is nutted on this board as well, right? So think about that too. I see a lot of people talking about the straight options. I like that. I do like that. I don't know if I'm going to throw a wrench in it. I don't want to ruin anyone's answer. So I will say there are. I'm going to say this, y'all. There are three of these answers have backdoor straights. Three of these answers have backdoor straights. So you really want to think about that. I love it. I love I love having like a whole. All right, let me count. We have an A. We have two A's, three D's, a C. I love it. This is what it's all about, y'all. This is iron sharpening iron here. We are going to see who is right. Okay, Jabs is changing to D. Final answer D. Jason, that's fine if you're changing it to D as your final answer, but please remember you have to match your reasoning. If you don't have reasoning, then it's not going to be sufficient because the reason for both is going to be a little bit different. Man, some of these answers really deserve partial credit. I might actually do some 1 point. I might even take it back. I don't know. See that's I'm not the toughest grader. So I'm gonna let y'all vote if I should do some 1 pointers because I do see like some of these answers as 1 pointers versus two. There's a couple 2 pointers, a couple zeros. So what do y'all think? Dan, True Man Dan, do you think I should give some 1 points out? Jester, what y'all think? Jester loves the curve. Okay. I think that's a vote for 1 points. Some 1 point ones. Okay. More the merrier. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go over the. I'm gonna quick time real quick. I'm gonna quick time and then no more answers after I put time in the chat. So 10 seconds left, and I'm gonna say time in the chat, and all answers will be final. We had a lot of back and forth for some of us, so want to be fair. Okay. All right, here we go. Time. Let's take a look here. Queen Jack of Spades and 9-7 of Spades are the correct blocking hands, but for different reasons. If we're talking about Queen Jack of Spades, we really are thinking the true reasoning is our backdoor equity is strong enough here that regardless of our opponent's holdings, as long as it's not an 8, we have a lot of cards that can make our hand better. So if you said Queen Jack of Spades, you should not have said blockers, right? That's not your reasoning. You don't have blockers here. That you don't have. There's not that many Queen 8, Jack 8 combinations, realistically, that are betting this board or even raising. So yeah, you really don't want to talk about blockers as the reason for why you would float with Queen Jack, but it really has a lot of strong backdoor equity. Any 9, any 10, any spade on the turn improves your likelihood of making a really strong made hand. So that's really the reason you would want to take the Queen Jack of Spades approach. If you said the second correct answer would be 7-9 of spades. 7-9 of spades is an answer for you. You do have a lot of backdoor equity and backdoor straight draws, but you also want to talk about blockers, right? You don't have as many overcards, which is it's not that great. And you know, Queen Jack, you could actually make a lot of queens and jacks that win. Whereas if you hit your 7 sometimes, you know, depending on what your opponent is betting with, your 7 when you hit it might not always be good, just because they could be doing this a flop bet with like 5-6. So when you hit your 7 is probably not good. Whereas when you hit your queen or your jack, it's almost always going to be good. So that's something you want to think about too. Like, what is your opponent betting with? They probably don't have an 8, right? So they might have some like heart draw or like a gut shot, because they can't have an up and down. Like 6-7, 5-6 doesn't go up and down. So they might have a gut shot there. And you should calculate that into the percentage of hands that you don't beat. And so that's why your 7, hitting your 7, you don't always want to talk about the equity there, but you do have straight draws. And it's actually a wider range of straight draws that you can make. So I don't hate talking about your equity with 7-9 of spades, but if you didn't talk about blockers but chose 7-9 of spades, I'm only going to give you 1 point. Because really, the real reason to choose 7-9 of spades, yes, we want a little bit of that flush equity, but it's really good as a blocker, as True Man Dan said. As Forex said, 9-7 blocks all these 8-9 combinations, right? All these 8-9 combinations and 7-8 combinations. That's really good to block, because 7-8, 8-9 offsuits, those could really be raising on the button. Those are realistic hands that you can raise. So any 7-8 combination or 9-8 combination is blocked, and that's pretty good. That's actually really good. In fact, it's an even better blocking hand if it was like 9 of diamonds, 7 of clubs. 9 of diamonds, 7 of clubs is even better than having the backdoor equity, because 9 of diamonds blocks 8-9 of diamonds, and 7 of clubs would block 7 of clubs, 8 of clubs. But you can't block 7-8 of spades or 9-8 of spades on this flop, because the 8 of spades is already there. So that's something we'll talk about more next week. But from a cursory overview, we definitely have Forex got that one right. Talking about the overcards, so I'm going to add his name there. Forex, True Man Dan, awesome job talking about the blockers and the equity. That is what I love to see. Great answer. Lolo Posse. Um, call for the flush and the straights. Flush straight back towards A. Call over pairs. So Lolo, I think you changed your answer to A, and that is right. Lolo Rich. Oh, let's see. Okay, I really have to look at Japster's last answer. Yeah, Japster, blockers, straight foot. Good. That's good. So that's gonna be the right answer. Jester said it's always C on the test, but he said D has flush and straight options. Jester, I'm giving you 1 point because you really needed to talk about blockers for 7-9 because Queen Jack has better flush and straight options. Higher straight, higher flush. And you have overcards with Queen Jack. So if you didn't talk about blockers, that's not the best reason to choose 7-9. But I'll give you 1 point. Okay. Now I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. I think I got everybody. Y'all, did I miss anyone? Let me know if I missed you. I don't think I did though. I think I got everyone for that round. All right, awesome. That's going to bring us to our last quiz question, which is actually from a previous week. So let me get it from a previous week. We just didn't get to it last week. That's all. So I wanted to make sure I used all my material. I spent a lot of time preparing it. So last week, I'm sorry you're not. So it really benefits you if you attend all the trainings because you're definitely going to have an advantage. Because I do not have time to reteach all this. But so I'm sorry if you weren't here last week. You're going to be a little bit of disadvantage, but I do want to reward people who are like consistently committing their time to become better poker players. Really, y'all, me and Pips and Zach, we are really looking forward to like someone shipping one of these, at least bringing a couple hundred back into the staking pool. We were really excited for that moment. It's going to really invigorate our community. We're really taking it seriously to make you all better. I mean, it's great that we had a couple mints and a couple secondary sales, but right now, if we hit something with one of your stakes, it's gonna be big for us. I think it'll be great publicity, and it'll really help to revitalize some of our funds for the staking. Um, Also, I had someone bring someone to the morning session for 10,000 bullet, but I would love y'all to have bring someone either this time. Well, I guess it's too late this time. But if you bring someone to next week's training, if you bring someone to next week's training, you get 10,000 bullet, and it only takes 50,000 bullet to mint an outlaw. So if you win 10,000 bullet just for bringing someone here, and then if you're retweeting on Twitter, if you're retweeting and commenting on our post on Twitter, we're doing a raffle on Sunday to give out 10,000 bullet again. So if you're following our Twitter, Outlaws NFT, just comment on a couple posts, get entered into that raffle. You get 10,000 bullet there. If you win our bullet free roll next week, you're like already to a new outlaw, which is actually pretty good. And it'll at least qualify you to play heads up versus me and Pips if it's your second, or you can sell it on secondary. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your outlaw, but invite people, get equity, for your holdership, and help me, Zach, and Pips out. We're trying to grow the project. We need to bring in some new blood. We need to bring in some life, so we really would appreciate it. Don't forget, you also get your 20% commissions for using your referral link if you get someone to mint. So it's just like a win-win-win, completely winning situation, and we would appreciate your help. Okay, last question for the night. Last week we talked about how to calculate your bet size. And how you calculate your bet size is to calculate your villain's equity and subtract the pot, which we just give a value of 1, minus 2 times the villain's equity. Thank you, Forex. Definitely appreciate that. Absolutely true, man, Dan. We need to make that the outline training. That's a great motto, actually. Okay, sorry. So how did we do this last time? So if we said our opponent had 10% equity in the hand, which is really we don't know, right? So we have to say like we can beat 10% of our opponent's hands. Then how do we calculate how much do we need to beat if our opponent if our opponent only can win 10% of the time? Excuse me. So that means we win 90% of the time. Our villain's equity is only 10%. That means they have a really bad hand. If their range is only winning 10% of the time and we're winning 90% of the time, they have a really bad hand, and we have the nut advantage by a large margin based on betting action, based on pre-flop raises for whatever reason. It seems like they're only going to have the best hand 10% of the time, right? So, what kind of bet would it take to bet someone off of their hand that they only win 10% of the time with? Well, we take that 10%, which is zero point 0.1, and divide that by 1 minus 2 times zero point 0.1. So that's zero point 0.1 divided by zero point 0.8. We only have to make a really small bet to get someone to fold their terrible hand. And that makes sense, right? You'd only have to bet about a 10th pot to get someone to fold a hand that's only good 10% of the time. So the last question tonight that we did not have time for, but we are going to make it up now. So let's imagine that we made a sound bet of 70% pots. Whoops. Okay, anyway. A 70% pot to try to extract value. So we're on the river here. If you see our whole cards, let me make it a little bigger so we can see our whole cards. It's kind of tiny. Okay, our whole cards are pocket twos. So we have now a set of twos, and we believe that 70% of the time we're good on the river, right? So we make a 70% bet. I mean, we're good 70% of the time here. We only lose to kings, tens, queen, jack. So we're good 70% of the time. But now the villain check raise is huge to 180% of the new pot. So the pot had a value of 10K after our bets, should say bets. The villain raises 18K. So it's like a 28K pot. So we bet, let's say we bet like 3,000 to a pot of 7,000, makes it 10,000. And the villain check raises it to 18K. Now, with this huge check raise, it's very questionable. We believe our hand is only good 40% of the time instead of 70% of the time. Should we call or fold, and why? So this is a pre-flop raised hands. If you had missed the scenarios from last week, this is a pre-flop raised hands. Should we call or fold, and why? Actually, we really don't have time for let's see. Should I do it 2 points? I really only gave the morning session 6 possibles. So let's just make it. I'll round your answer if you have a good why. But this is math, okay? This is a math calculation. It's not like a feelings thing. So if you're giving me a feelings answer, I will probably won't round up your answer. Round up your answer. Forex, in the example, it says we believe now that our hand is good 40% of the time. You might personally believe that this hand is less than 25%, is good less than 25% of the time. But Hero in this situation believes he is good only 40% of the time now. So now he's thinking there is a possibility, a high possibility, that my opponent has like some weird combination. Maybe he floated me with nines or sevens, or he has tens or kings, or he has queen jack, right? There's a weird possibility that 60% of the time he's good here, 40% of the time I'm good because he's bluffing, or he just has like king 10 or king 9 and he thinks he's good. So are we good here? Should we call or fold, and why? So it's going to cost us, oh, we bet 7K. That's how much we bet. So you raised to 18K. So it's 11K to call, right? Because we made a bet of 70%. 11K to call, and we're going to win. If we do win, we win 28K. So 11K to call, 28K if we win. Do we call? Yes or no? We bet 70% pot, so the value of the pot was 10K. And then he raises 18K, so it's a 28K pot. Wait, did I get that right? Is it 11K to call? Yeah, 11K to call. Yeah, 11K to call to win a pot of 28K. All right, I'm giving y'all like 30 more seconds. Well, I do want you to know you might believe you're good over half the time. This hero believes he's only good 40% of the time. You have to go off of what the hero thinks. Hero thinks he's good 40% of the time only. So, you cannot think that you are good 50% of the time or more than half the time because hero thinks he's only good 40% of the time. He believes there's too many combinations of kings, tens, nines, sevens, and queen jack that he loses to now. Oh no, I'm not. I don't mean to pick on you, OL. I just wanted to make sure you had a good understanding of the question. I think you communicated the idea right. That's why I wanted to help clarify. Like you're supposed to use the numbers 11. It's 11K to call, right? Because we bet 70% of pot, so we bet 7K, and it's 28K to win because he raised it to 180% of pot. So he more than doubled our raise, which is standard. A weird 6-8 also gets there. True, that would be a really sick 6-8. Like it would have to be 6-8 of clubs though. Like 6-8 of clubs could get there. That's one combination of 6-8 that you can calculate that gets there, and that's another hand you lose to. That's really interesting. I didn't even see the 6-8 in this in this example. But 6-8 of clubs gets there. That would be the sickest run out though. Okay. All right. Let's look at the equity calculator here, right? Okay. So I'm going to share it. I actually think I calculated this wrong, but let's see. I'm pulling up a calculator, y'all. So before I here, I'm gonna reshare my screen so you all can see the new thing I have. All right, so we bet 70% to make the pot 10K, right? Which doesn't actually mean we bet. Let's see. That really actually means like the pot was like 7K, I think. I'm gonna do the math. No, 6K, 6K times 0.7. Yeah, the pot was more like 5,800 because if you bet 70% pot into 5,800, you make it, yeah. So it's more like this. So really, we're having to call probably 5750, and we bet 70% pot. Yeah. Okay. Something like that. So 5,700, and we had to call. So that means we have to call 18,000 minus 5,700, which is 12,300. Okay, so 12,300. I was wrong. It's actually 12,300 versus 28K. So if that changes anyone's calculations, um, let me know. So we actually have to call 12K, 12.3K to win 28K. I'll try that. 12.3K to win 28K, and we believe we're good 40% of the time. So if we think about that, oh Lord, what did I do here? 12.3 divided by 828 means we need to be good 43% of the time. If we need to be good 43% of the time or 44% of the time, we're not going to be good. Let me see what it was if it was 11. 11% of the time over 28. We would have been barely good if it was 11. So I don't think anyone really used that type of math. So for everyone who said fold, fold would be the right answer here. The saddest fold of our lives. So Jason, which is Japster, True Man Dan, Jester. Is anyone actually ever going to fold this hand in real life? Would y'all ever fold to this run out? I guess you do have to fold. I mean, the hearts definitely make it. Like for a lot of us, the hearts alone is enough. But I actually had a ton of fun, and I actually messed up the math a little bit. So I'm going to give everyone who stayed this long that last raffle entry. I think it's fair because I got the math wrong, even though you really should have been doing the math yourselves. But I'll give everyone a raffle entry for that last one, and I'll give the people who got it right too. I'm typing them all in, and then we're going to go to the wheel, y'all. So give me about like 30 more seconds. I'm really enjoying this. I love your reasoning. I love everyone's reasonings here. It's really great to see how much everyone's progressing. Okay, let's get to the wheel here, and then we're gonna call it a night. It ran a little bit over, but I hope you all enjoyed. Please give me any feedback that you have. I definitely will take it in and try to improve things in the future. So give me feedback if you have it. I want to make sure I am not like wasting anyone's time. So thank you, True Man Dan. Like and sub the video. Tell someone about what we're doing here at the Crypto Outlaws. We're really trying to make something special happen, right? So we are going to keep pouring into our projects. We are not quitting, but it is great, and it's like just very promising to get a mint in. Like even a mint helps us fund like half of a week, right? So it doesn't take a lot to keep us going, and it really helps. So try to refer someone. You get that 20% referral bonus. That's like $30. It's not bad at all. Especially with where ETH is, it's probably more like 40 if you have 3 outlaws. And I guess I don't know if it would the contract gas. I don't know how it works, but it's at least 30. So get someone in, y'all. All right, here we go. $33. Let's spin it. Super Poker. That is our morning session. I gotta remove all instances of him. Did I not do that? He was supposed to get out removed. Okay. Get him off there. Get him off there. So now everyone should have higher equity. Here we go. $22 raffle. True Man Dan, 22. Awesome job. I am going to do I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to do a 10,000 bullet for third place. Okay. I will talk to Zach about that. I'm pretty sure he won't mind. And if he does, then I will convert the fee for whatever 10,000 bullet is. So let's do 10,000 bullets. So at least third place. This was a really good session. I really appreciate the engagement, and I want to at least get some of y'all closer to getting a new outlaw. So let's go ahead and do 10,000 bullet for this third one. All right. So True Man Dan got the 22, and the 10,000 bullet will go to. Ooh, it's close. Lobo Rich. I really looks like Gesture on the wheel. I guess my eyes are not sharp enough. So Lolo, you're getting 10,000 bullet. If you get 50,000 bullet, you get a new outlaw. I just really appreciate y'all. I wanted to at least give a little bit to third place because this was I really think this was one of the best training sessions we had. Great diversity, great thought, y'all. You're really proving to be some sharks. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys. So I hope at least we all became a little bit better poker players today. It's actually taking this session and merging it with next session is going to make a lot more sense to help you make more profitable calls, to help you sustain deep runs into poker tournaments. But yeah, that's all we have for tonight, y'all. I really appreciate you guys. I will try to get you, and me and Zach are always trying to get you as much value as possible. Expect some more things coming in the next couple of weeks. We still have more things coming in the pipeline. We're just trying to work out some kinks and everything. But for now, let's be happy with the great progress we made this last couple weeks. And I hope you have a great night. Okay, y'all take care.